Hello everyone, this is Air and welcome to the 38th episode of Death Row Executions. Today's story is on Humberto Leal Garcia, who was executed at the age of 38 by lethal injection in the state of Texas for homicide. His story gained international attention because many felt that the United States broke international law by executing a Mexican citizen, even though America was all he knew, having come here before he even learned how to speak.
He has witnesses who saw the real killer, who is walking free. He also lives in San Antonio, but he's American. We'll wait for him here because they've stripped him of his U.S. citizenship.
Humberto Leal Garcia was born on January 16, 1973 in Monterrey, Mexico. He had 6 siblings, and his parents, Pedro and Maria Garcia, immigrated from Mexico to San Antonio, Texas, when Humberto was just under 2 years old. He grew up in a Catholic family, and as a child was sexually abused by a priest. There is not much else on his early life, but it has been documented that he did suffer from brain damage. Growing up, he had a history of being a bully and intimidating others to get what he wanted. In his late teens, he was into partying and became a mechanic for a living. Overall, he was not a peaceful person and frequently broke the law without ever getting caught. Around May 14, 1994, at the age of 21, Humberto got away with sexually assaulting a teenager. During the attack, he bit the girl on the cheek and threatened to kill her and her family if she ever went to the authorities. He then began to harass the girl's older sister as well. The girl did not go to authorities, and Humberto continued to live his life. The following week, on May 21, 1994, Humberto decided to go to a house party in San Antonio. Everyone attending the party convened in the backyard, and one of the attendees was 16-year-old Adria Sauceda. Alcohol was provided, and majority of the partygoers were intoxicated. 16-year-old Adria ended up getting drunk as well, and unfortunately had some of her clothes forcefully taken off as she was pushed to the ground. It was later noted in an autopsy that although she was drunk, she was well aware of everything that was happening to her. Multiple men took their turns having their way with Adria as she laid there defenseless with no witnesses offering any help. When the men were finished with their assault, Adria, half naked, walked outside and was comforted by Humberto. He let her know that he knew her mother and would get her home safely. He picked her up and carried her to his car and placed her in the passenger seat. Humberto drove off, but it was not in the direction of Adria's home, so she decided to try and get out of the vehicle. They struggled, and Humberto beat her into submission. He then drove to a dirt road near a creek on Reforma Road, and after getting Adria out of the car, he raped her and then sodomized her with a 15-inch stick that had a screw at the end of it. He then grabbed a rock that was approximately 40 pounds and hit Adria on the head with it and left her there. Humberto later said that the reason why he left is because he got scared when he noticed bubbles coming out of her nose. After leaving Adria for dead, he went home and prayed and then told his family members what he had done. It was only 30 minutes after Humberto left the party with Adria when one of his brothers drove back to the house party and yelled at everyone asking what happened because his brother had admitted that he killed someone. He said that there was blood on his brother's clothes and he did not understand what happened. He left the party, but the people attending the party left to go look for Adria. A group of them finally found her, and she was naked on the dirt road, face up, with her body seizing and twitching, so they immediately called police. When police arrived, they noticed 2 bloody rocks near Adria's body, as well as a large hole in the corner of her eye that reached to the center of her head. Police took a video of the whole crime scene and left to find Humberto. They initially spoke with Humberto's brother, and he had told them exactly what happened. They then spoke with Humberto, who gave a voluntary statement. He tried to argue that Adria started to hit him in the car for no reason, which caused him to crash his car. He then said that she ran out of the car and he waited for about 15 minutes for her to come back, and when she didn't, he drove home. After he was told that his brother gave a statement, he decided to change his story and said that when Adria got out of the car, he ran after her and she fell, hitting her head. He got scared and went home, telling his family it was an accident. Humberto was still not arrested at this time, and a police officer drove him back to his house, and that is when they discovered Adria's bloody top, took it in as evidence, and also took the clothes that he was wearing during the murder. In the following days, Humberto's car was impounded to check for trace evidence, and that is when they were able to do a luminol test and found traces of blood that was cleaned by Humberto. When it came to examining all of Adria's clothing, they were unable to identify Humberto's body fluids specifically because of the fact that multiple men had their way with her before Humberto was able to. An autopsy was later conducted by Dr. De Mayo, and he said that all of the puncture wounds on Adria's head and body that left deep holes were used with the same 15-inch stick that she was sodomized with. She had bite marks on her cheeks that matched Humberto's dental records, and the cause of death was most likely due to the hit on the head with the rock, although there were marks around her neck as well. Because Humberto kidnapped Adria, a minor, committed aggravated assault, and killed her, the state indicted Humberto and made it known that they would be seeking the death penalty. On July 11, 1995, Humberto was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death by method of lethal injection. The U.S. government tried to get Texas to hold off on the execution so that the Mexican consulate could be involved, but Humberto was denied getting any assistance from the Mexican consulate. He said that he was never told about the Vienna Convention, which is an international agreement between states that allows them to make decisions based on the nationality of the person in need of help. Texas maintained that the rights were granted to the state and not the individual, and that they broke no international laws because Humberto voluntarily confessed without asking for any representation. He also made his confession before he was arrested. His lawyers also argued that if he were told that he had the right to consult with the Mexican consulate, he would have been advised not to admit anything or talk about the crime in such detail. There were over 6 appeals, with one of the appeals being that the lethal injection was not humane. He filed for emergency relief from the Texas Supreme Court as well and was denied. Overall, the Texas Supreme Court, the U.S. Court of Appeals, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, the U.S. District Court, and the San Antonio Federal District all denied Humberto's appeals and petitions. Humberto was on death row for a little over 15 years at the Texas State Penitentiary at Huntsville. In 2011, the same year Humberto was set to be executed, President Obama asked the Supreme Court to delay the execution for up to 6 months because of the new Consular Notification Compliance Act. This is from the Congress website, and as you can see here, it states that this act is to facilitate compliance with Article 36 of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and any comparable provision of a bilateral international agreement addressing consular notification and access. It requires that 1. An individual who is not a U.S. national who is detained or arrested by a federal, state, or local officer or employee be notified that such individual may request that his or her consulate be notified of the detention or arrest. 2. If so requested, an appropriate official shall notify the consulate. 3. If the consulate has not been notified, notification shall occur no later than the individual's first court appearance. The Compliance Act, in turn, would put America in compliance with the Vienna Convention. Despite President Obama asking Texas to give Humberto a reprieve so that the Mexican government can be involved, and despite appeals from the United Nations as well, Texas Governor Rick Perry refused to grant a stay of execution. For Humberto's last meal, he had fried chicken, pico de gallo, and tacos guisados. July 7, 2011 was Humberto's execution day, and after being strapped in, he said his last words. "I've hurt a lot of people. I know Christ has forgiven me, and I accept his forgiveness. I am sorry for the victim's family for what I did. May they forgive me. Let's get this show on the road, Warden. Viva Mexico." The drugs were then administered, and one of his sisters by the name of Mary, who was a witness to the execution, cried the whole time and even threw up in the witness area. Before Humberto took his last breath at 6:21 p.m., he shouted Viva Mexico one last time. Now for discussion and question time. This is not the first time that a state has ignored the Vienna Convention when it came to executing someone. I might do a story later on the Legrand brothers, who were German nationals but also came to America around the age of 2. Both brothers were executed despite Germany trying hard to halt the execution. For me, it seems like this applies to a foreigner who is maybe here on vacation or has been here a few years and knows nothing about our laws and customs. I think it's very different than a person who's been here since they were a toddler and has lived their life as an American. How much would Humberto know about Mexico when he did not grow up there? Do you guys feel that the Mexican consulate should have been involved, or do you think it was fair for Texas to make the final decision? I did not think that was Humberto's second time committing a crime like that, and to me it seemed like he already had a signature with the biting of the cheeks. I think he would have continued his acts, and I'm really confused on what type of party that was. I think it's so sad how Adria was taken advantage of and no one at the party helped her. The same ones who didn't help her were the same ones to call the police, and not one person was charged for assaulting her at the party, and I feel all of the men involved should have been locked up. So ladies, I think it is beneficial to carry something to protect yourselves, especially if you are going out by yourself at night. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you for watching.